The following podcast contains adult language and themes, so don't say we didn't fucking warn you.
You're listening to Sarah Talk. It's political.
You could run a fucking pet rock against Donald Trump, and I would vote for the pet rock.
Yeah.
That's where we're at right
Yeah.
Critical.
One of the things that drives me nuts as an atheist is that my polling location is at a church. And I don't necessarily have a problem. I'm not going to burst into flames walking into a church.
After being on this show and having heard your viewpoints on some things, my advice to you is don't test this. I won't burst into flames.
And positively LGBT positive.
In many states, you can still be evicted from housing simply for being gay or transgender. Stand and fight with us.
Oh, and occasionally completely absurd.
Oh, they're shutting us down. They're deplatforming us. I do a pretty good Alex Jones voice. They're turning the frogs gay.
Okay, you're sleeping in a child's room tonight because there's no way you're sleeping next to me. That is disgusting. I'm going to have nightmares.
And now, from Orlando, Florida, your host, Sarah Austin.
Hey everybody, welcome to Sarah Talk. I'm your host, Sarah Austin, and we're doing a pre-recording again this week. Again, just sort of not really back into our normal groove after the accident still. So hopefully we'll be back in our normal routine soon, because it drives me nuts not having you guys live in the chat room. I'm really missing that interaction. So maybe next week we'll do a live stream pre-Christmas thing and get our fix. But for this week's episode, get your crayons out, kids. We're going to color this week. Now, do you pronounce it crayon? Or are you one of those heathen, monster, evil people that says crowns, crayons, crayon, C-R-A-Y-O-N, crayon? I'm excited to share with you a really neat coloring book called the Atheist Christmas Coloring Book. And I chatted earlier this week with the creator of that book. That'll be the first segment, and then we'll come back in the second segment. We'll tackle some of the news stories that have been piling up in 1,000 tabs that I keep open all the time in my browser. So let's get right to it. Rick Marazzani is a geek dad, tech nerd, objective freethinker, and creator of the Atheist Christmas Coloring Book. To tell us more, Rick joins us now. Rick, welcome to Sarah Talk.
Hey, Sarah, thanks for having me on.
Hey, thanks for getting this together. I apologize, I think we had messaged back and forth a while back, and it slipped through the cracks on my end, but I'm glad we're able to finally connect and talk about this. Before we get into the book itself, though, let's talk a little bit about you. Were you raised in the church?
Kind of. Yes. I grew up in the Bay Area, and Italian-American Catholic family, and both my parents had gone to parochial school.
Okay.
And I grew up going to First Communion, CCD, confirmation, and all that. But I was a pretty inquisitive kid, and I had lots of tough questions from my parents, and they didn't always have the answers. They were of course, culturally religious. Being in a small town that was, primarily populated by Mexicans, Italians, Portuguese, Filipinos. So there's a strong Catholic presence in our town. It's called Martinez, so it was founded by a Mexican Spaniard, and Joe DiMaggio was born in my hometown.
Oh, wow.
So there's a strong, fisherman presence there. So culturally, being Catholic was how I grew up. But I had so many questions, and I pushed back so often, and finding things to a kid that I thought didn't make sense, or asking questions, big questions like how long is forever, when is the beginning, who made God?
Yeah.
And so I was, a challenging thinker and, a budding free thinker even as a kid.
And that's good, because so many of us, I grew up in kind of a weak Protestant. My town is a town of 1,400 people, and there are 0 stoplights and 9 churches, and everybody went to church. And I don't remember questioning so much when I was a kid. Mine came, as I got older, and I was in a deep one-on-one Bible study with a youth pastor at one point, and he was having me like go through and read sections of the Bible and write out the truths and the promises in each section that we were reading. And the more I read, the more I was like, this is bullshit.
Reading the Bible is the best way to make an atheist, I'd say.
It sure is, man. There's a lot of nonsense in that book.
Well, fortunately, I think that that Jews and Catholics make some of the best atheists, even if they're still part of their culture, their religious culture. I think they make a lot of room philosophically for themselves to be part of the culture, but also not get too bogged down in the details.
Yeah. So yours was more of a journey. There wasn't really. Was there a moment when you kind of thought, this is all? I don't believe this, or was it just that process of asking questions?
Well, the toughest part for me, I'm lucky. I had a really good friend I grew up with who was raised atheist. His name's Leon, and we've grown up since we were little kids together. And he was always prodding and nudging me, pointing out, how silly and fallacious things were. But culturally, it was tough to give up. And, my parents, the word atheist was, it still is a dirty word.
Yeah.
Freethinker is a more polite way to put it. Agnostic is a wussy word.
Right.
That is I don't even, or I'm atheist, but I'm spiritual. So there's ways that people fudge it, but just over the years, I knew that I had to let it go, and eventually I did. So it wasn't until I was, openly questioning, belief in God and all that, and eventually it's not worth it. I'm just going to give it up, not give up the facade. But I realized that Christmas is something that unifies us all. And that's what I was able to hang on to Christmas. And my friend Leon also had big Christmas at his house, being raised, being an atheist. They celebrated Christmas for all the right reasons. And I learned that you can still have your cultural traditions. You can still have 7 fishes on Christmas Eve. You could still have an Easter egg hunt. Yeah. Things like that, but not believe the myths behind it. So I wanted to make it really easy and approachable for people in a similar situation to acknowledge that there is a cultural element that they can embrace, family and love and joy and all that, without having to believe all the malarkey.
Right.
And the Atheist Christmas Coloring Book, it's a way for me to express to people, kind of give them that branch where they can, reach, extend a branch to them so they can grab it and, come to the shore of reason, knowing that their life is not going to collapse. They're not going to have Christmas in in an empty, cold house.
Yeah.
Their family, might disown them, but that's on them.
Right.
But if you go to, Christmas dinner and your goal is to have a nice time and enjoy your family and, share some cheer, and, those are all universal values. And there's no reason that you should have to shed those.
Right.
And that was the goal of the book, was to show all the universal elements behind Christmas that go way beyond Christianity.
Now, was being a parent, so Becca and I are parents. We have 2 kids, 8 and 3. And being a secular parent around here is still kind of tough. What has it been like raising your kids to question and think rationally about the mythology and the supernatural nonsense that seems to be very prevalent in our society?
Well, if I'm being honest, I'm feeling like I'm not teaching them enough of the mythology. I wish that my kids, we raised them, as free thinkers, and I wish that they, gone to, catechism, and learned more about the cultural significance of the Bible. So when we're watching a movie or a TV show, or they're reading a book, they're going to miss some things that either come from the Bible or come from the Catholic Church, and they won't know the cultural relevance of that thing.
Yeah.
So I kind of, and I don't. It's just as an anthropologist.
Yeah.
So and since I want them to know so much, they know so much about all kinds of cultures.
Yep.
And mythologies, and we embrace, lots of cultures that there's fun things to do even on Christmas. The Swedish watch Donald Duck movies. The British watch James Bond after Christmas dinner. Little things like that are super secular, but they're fun parts of their culture. And the Japanese go to Kentucky Fried Chicken for Christmas. So little things like that have nothing to do with religion, but they're fun cultural things.
Right.
But there's infinite things to learn, and we didn't spend a lot of time on the Bible. So I don't. If they wanted to become, I don't know. I think it's going to hurt them professionally or culturally or personally, but because they're super well-rounded.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes they miss, a religious joke here or a funny biblical reference there, like someone making a crack about Job or Lot. Or
right.
the Tower of Babel.
Right.
Stuff like that is just cultural. They don't understand, where does the idea of the Tower of Babel come from?
Right.
And
there's a way.
I do my best.
There's a way to teach that stuff too, without the indoctrination that typically comes along with it in a church setting. When I was, our 8-year-old was in daycare, and he came home one day and told us that we were getting ready to eat or whatever, and he said, "Oh, we have to put our hand." He went to the YMCA that was affiliated with my workplace, which really pissed me off. But he says, "Well, we have to put our hands together and thank God before we eat." And so my challenge was, "What's God?" "Well, I don't know." "Okay, then you need to lock into that and ask questions and learn about it and figure it out." And now at 8 years old, we're at the point where, he'll say something and I'll ask, "How do you know that that's true?" A little child street epistemology almost, like, okay, so where's your evidence? What foundation are you basing the idea that you think this is true on? And could you possibly be incorrect? And how could we find that out? And we have really good conversations. But, back then he was, God, I don't know, 3 or 4 maybe. And so the conversation was, all right, well, we should probably be thanking the farmers who grew the food, right? And all the people who helped make it and process it, and the people that work at the grocery store. And there's a lot of people along the way who helped put this food on our table, and we should be thankful for them. And that clicked. He got that pretty quickly.
That's cool. Yeah, my girls, I have 3 girls, and I push back to them and they'll push back to me with, "Why do you think so?"
Yep.
And it's everything. "We're going to be late." "Why do you think so?" "Because it's 45 minutes." "No, it's 15 minutes to get there." "Oh, okay." So it's everything in our family is, "Why do you think so?" If I think they're wrong, I always come back with, "Why do you think so?" So that I can understand why, if they're really panicked about something or concerned about something, I want to know why, so we can talk. And maybe they're right. Maybe they really know that it takes 45 minutes to get there because of we have to stop at the market and buy, a gift or something. So yeah, my kids they've been raised as free thinkers, and
it's great.
We love, we love lots of holidays, but the Christmas is, the ultimate holiday in our book.
Yeah.
In that it is so grounded in science with the winter solstice.
Yes. Yep.
And the environment and the seasonal cycles and the harvest and the birth and fattening of animals and, tapping the larder or the rebirth of the sun. So there's real physical reasons to celebrate on the coldest, darkest,
longest night of the
day
year.
of the year.
Yeah. We do a.
So that makes sense.
We do a. I have a holiday episode that I drop every year on Christmas Day. That is a. It's a very kind of. It's a little cerebral. It's a History Channel sort of look at where all of the traditions that we think of as distinctly American or distinctly Christian or whatnot, kind of where all of those roots came from Egyptian to pagan to so on and so forth. But one of the things that we also talk about in that episode that I wanted to get your thoughts on, I've been seeing so much arguing this year on social media about what some people are seeing as like it's hypocritical for an atheist to teach their kids Santa Claus. And I kind of have my own response to that, but we do Santa in our house. But what do you think of that?
So before I wrote the book, and again, this goes to my buddy Leon, who we had our family Christmases with for years and years, and his kids are about the same age as my kids, and his kids were not taught Santa. My kids were, because we wanted to have a little bit of magic. Christmas is a magic time. My kids don't believe in magic. Right. And I really don't think they believe in Santa Claus. I'm not allowed to ask them per my wife. but we don't, I always talk about Santa Claus in a kind of sarcastic way, like, yeah, he'll get all the way around the world in 12 hours. So, so the kids have to know, but the fact that there is that magic, and it's not just, it's a happy tale. You don't have to believe it's actually true to believe in the spirit. Lots of myths are like that. Yep. You don't have to believe a raven actually stole the sun and created the world to understand the lessons behind the idea. And then you don't worship the raven. It's just a bird. Right. But, you understand the lessons of the story. And you can believe in Superman without expecting him, to come save you. Right. It's the idea of Superman. Yep. The idea of James Bond. These are all rich characters that are part of our culture. And so we did Santa for years, and I've never told my kids, one of my daughters is in college, and I've never told her. Yep. Of course she knows there's no stuff. I have to assume all my kids do. Yeah. But my littlest daughter, and I know that they do play dumb to keep the magic alive. Oh, yeah. My littlest daughter, I made a crack about flying reindeer. And my youngest daughter, who's 10, said, "What do you mean reindeer don't fly?" I'm thinking, how the hell can you believe reindeer fly? And then I realized, I think she's working the Christmas magic angle, being, sarcastic. I don't know. Uh-huh. But we don't hold it over them. It's not, a specter or a boogeyman. Sure. It's just, it's a fun thing, like, trick-or-treating, and, it's part of the fabric. Our plan is sort of, once the oldest figures it out, then he gets to become a Santa for his sister. And then when she figures it out, then, our plan is to kind of turn that idea of giving without expecting anything in return, that lesson, into like getting them involved in the community and helping the homeless or toy drives for underprivileged children or that sort of thing, so that they take the essence of what Santa is supposed to represent and put it into action. I like your waterfall technique of tumbling down to the next kid. I like that. Yeah. Well, we had to figure it out. Like we had that moment of like, okay, we are skeptics. And we've taught our children that a magic fat man breaks into our house in the middle of the night on Christmas. How are we going to get ourselves out of this? And that's kind of the creative solution we came up with to point it into something good for them. That's cool. I will say one thing that I really like about some European Christmas cultures is this idea of Krampus. Yeah. the horned demon. So I've been thinking a lot about, Santa should be a good guy.
Right.
He shouldn't be the a-hole that punishes you.
Right.
So leave Santa being the good guy in the white hat, so to speak, and let some wretched demon be the a-hole that whoops you and chains you up and takes you away or doesn't give you.
Right.
Make a true boogeyman be the boogeyman rather than Santa, who's supposed to be a superhero.
Yeah. Right.
So we don't
that.
have Krampus, but I like the idea of there being a polar opposite.
Right.
In the mythology, so that Santa is the good guy and Krampus is the boogeyman.
Yeah, and it's too easy for parents to, play that, well, if you're not good, Santa's not going to, come on. Let's not use Santa in that way,
That makes Santa the a-hole.
Yeah, exactly. All right,
I don't clean my room, Santa's not going to give me my train set? That's
right.
terrible.
Yep. So let's get back to the book here. The illustration was done by Claire Veskova. And it is a timeless sort of style, which I think is great. Like if you open this book and it's like the Christmas books of your childhood, really, and it's easy to color for kids of all ages. I thought the illustrations were great.
Claire really nailed it. I made a version years and years ago that was just a PDF that was on a printed book, and gave it away on my website, and all the art was clip art.
Right.
And it was very kludgy, and it looked, the story, the rhymes. There's rhymes on every page that tell the rational story of Christmas. So the rhymes were still there, and the sentiment was there, conveyed in clip art, but it was not beautiful.
Right.
And I actually found Claire. I was looking for illustrations of Krampus, and she not only had that really approachable, scary, and whimsical illustration, colorable illustration of Krampus, but she had loads of other great Christmas art, like St. Nicholas.
Yeah.
I needed, in particular, a picture of a guy with a beard with a crook staff and a mitre cap as St. Nick, and she had that. She comes from Europe, where she has a strong Christmas European culture. But when I found her art, I said, I want to use this for an atheist coloring book. And she said, that's fine. I'm a free thinker.
Oh, that's great.
Her family celebrates Christmas, but her and her daughter are free thinkers. And it just all came together, and all of her art is great. And it really complemented the words and sentiments that I had already put together and just kind of the free version years and years ago. And then I redid it as, it's a commercial version. It's still free on the website,
right?
atheistchristmas.org. So if you don't want to buy it, you can download it and print it, or print out your favorite pages and have your kids enjoy it. And you're going to get the same, pages in the whole book that you'd get if you bought the bound paper version from Amazon.
Right. Now, you mentioned briefly there the story that kind of comes along with it. If you don't mind, can I read a few of those lines?
Oh, go ahead.
It is a custom as old as custom can be, even for atheists like you and me. On the longest, darkest night of the year, we gather to share joy, gifts, and cheer. No fables or myths are needed to say, celebrate peace and love for a day. Christmas is a rich, secular celebration built upon wide and diverse inspiration. Baby Jesus was born away in a manger? Listen closely, as things only get stranger. I thought this was just fantastic. And then it continues in this style to describe where some of those traditions actually come from. And I think that's really great, because it kind of gives, it touches on those topics without making it a college level history lesson, and then at the end it brings home this idea that this whole thing is really just about love and goodwill, and religion doesn't own the copyright on that.
Yeah, Christmas is more ancient and way more universal than some guy's birthday.
Right.
Is what I'm saying. And there's so much that goes into Christmas that there's even a page, choose what you love about Christmas. If you want to have tamales every year, have tamales. If you want to give matching pajamas to your kids, that can be a tradition. These are traditions that we have in our family. There's lots of ways to have traditions that unite your family and friends. And, lighting candles every night or going to church or, saying a certain number of this or that, those are just optional things that other people do. But there are plenty of beautiful traditions full of joy and love and goodwill that anyone can grab onto. Even not atheists, but non-Christians of all sorts embrace those aspects of Christmas. And that's why I think it's as a holiday, it's one where it's not about sacrifice and destruction and death. It is only about the rebirth of life and joy. And those are things that everyone can embrace.
Absolutely. And I know we're kind of wrapping up here and we're running long, but I have to ask. Creation Museum Ark Park hack Ken Ham tweeted about this book. And he said, "You know why many atheists often claim teaching children about God is child abuse? Because they want to take your children and indoctrinate them in their bankrupt, meaningless, purposeless religion of atheism. Their main agenda is to attack Christianity." My God, there's a lot to respond to in that.
So my biggest response to the Christians that are angry at atheists, atheists that are taking down Christmas displays on public property,
Yep.
They're not anti-Christmas. They're anti-religion and state.
Yep.
And that's the only problem there. If you want to have a nativity scene on your lawn or on your roof,
Yeah, go for it.
knock yourself out.
Yep.
But what I think is at the core of this is atheists are supposed to be the bad guys. We're supposed to be evil, amoral demons. And we're supposed to be reviled. And when atheists embrace things like peace, love, joy, and goodwill, it makes the Christians, the evangelicals that hate the atheists, look bad.
Yep.
The evangelicals don't want atheists to show that we also appreciate love, joy, peace, and goodwill.
Right.
Just like all humans do. And they can't demonize us anymore.
Yep.
And I point out that Christ is a very recent and minor addition to what we call Christmas.
Yep.
We call it Christmas because that's it's a word for it. Just like we call it Thursday without acknowledging Thor.
Yep.
It's just a word. And if you want to celebrate some guy's birthday, you do that. I'm going to celebrate peace, love, joy, and goodwill with candles and trees and feasts and presents and a warm fire and special treats and the love of my family. So those are not mutually exclusive. I think that my celebration and the celebration that 99% of people that celebrate Christmas, even the Christians, this is what I described, the one based on ancient roots.
Yes.
And the Jesus part, someone could bolt that on or just do that. There are some cultures that don't celebrate any secular or pagan elements of Christmas.
Right.
And it's just some guy's birthday.
Well,
that's fine, but you're missing out.
Yeah. Well, and my wife is an ex-Jehovah's Witness, so they didn't celebrate anything when she was growing up. And so in our house, Christmas is a big fucking deal because, she's making up for lost time, really.
So as it should be.
Yeah.
And people say, oh, what about people that are non-Christian? And say there's immigrants that aren't Christian. They're from some other place where they're Muslim or whatever.
Sure.
Christmas is part of the American cultural experience. So you can have a big turkey and enjoy Christmas shopping and the sales and all that stuff.
Yep.
And as a secular experience, and still be loyal to your own faith. That's how big Christmas is, and how universal what we call Christmas is. And I call it Christmas. I say Merry Christmas.
Sure.
It would be silly, it is holidays, but, if someone is Jewish, I'll wish them, Happy Hanukkah.
Sure.
If someone celebrates Kwanzaa, I'll probably ask, where do you think Kwanzaa came from? What's the, because, what is your philosophical basis for Kwanzaa or solstice? What do you, if they're celebrating, crazy nature spirits and about solstice, and that's not my cup of tea. But celebrating the fact that it's the shortest, darkest day of the year, that's interesting.
Yep.
So Christmas is ancient and big, and there's room for everyone. And some evangelicals do not like that, but they're in the minority, and their Christmas is the Puritan Christmas, just another day.
Yeah.
Where some guy was allegedly born, and he's not some guy to them, but his birthday is not significant. It's his death that is significant and rebirth that's significant to the evangelicals and Christians.
Right. Well,
I don't celebrate his rebirth. I don't care about that. I care about Easter egg hunts and chocolate eggs.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think the bottom line here is what this book brings for children is an opportunity to sit down with a parent or a loved one and really hone in on the aspects of peace and joy and love and giving and family and togetherness without any gods. And it'll open up an opportunity for you to have a conversation about what Christmas is really all about for you and your family, and I think that's great.
Thanks. That was the goal of the book, and I'm glad it's coming through.
Yeah. Oh, clear as a bell. Absolutely love it. All right. So where can people find the Atheist Christmas Coloring Book and learn more?
It is available on the website, atheistchristmas.org, and it is a free PDF to download and print and enjoy. Or if you want a printed bound version that you can give as a gift, or, that looks like a coloring book, with a nice glossy cover and bright white paper, nice stock. That's available at Amazon. And if you search for Atheist Christmas Coloring Book, you'll find it. Or if you go to atheistchristmas.org, there's a link there. And I encourage people to pick one up for them and as a gift, because it's the kind of thing that I know in our house we have one for coloring and one that we bring out just to read. So we have a couple copies here.
That's a neat idea. Yeah.
But then if you print it out, you can print out an unlimited page. Or if you just like the page with the winter scene, or with Saint Nick, or there's Bigfoot in there because, he's another mythological creature like flying reindeer and elves.
Yeah.
So if you just like a few of the pages, and you can color those again and again. And hopefully the pages that people are printing out and coloring are ending up on fridges, refrigerator doors all over America, and on grandma's fridge, on being sent as folded up inside Christmas cards. Someday I'd hope to walk into someone's house and see one of the pages magnet on the fridge door. That'd be beautiful for me.
That would be so cool. Yeah. And you have I don't want to forget this. There's a promo code right now for Amazon if you're going to go purchase the book. It's GiftBook18 altogether there, GiftBook18.
And that promo is $5 off any purchase of $20 or more. So that's 2 copies of the book. So buy 2 copies of the book, one for you, one as a gift, and you get $5 off, and it'll be there in time for Christmas.
Oh, that's awesome. All right. Well, Rick, thank you so much for taking some time with us today and sharing this book with us. I think it's absolutely great, and I'm definitely going to check it out and probably take advantage of that promo code and get my kids coloring.
Thank you very much, Sarah. I had a blast being on the show. I love talking about interesting topics, and this is certainly a big, chewy, interesting topic.
You're absolutely right. I love it. I appreciate it so much.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Rick Marazzani, creator of the Atheist Christmas Coloring Book, a rational take on Christmas that encourages everyone to share in the spirit of joy and caring, especially with our friends and family. Visit atheistchristmas.org to pick up one now. You can go to Amazon and order it there with the promo code GIFTBOOK18. Gets you $5 off a $20 order or more. Our thanks again to Rick for joining us this week. Let's take a quick break here. We'll come back with some news from the front lines and crazy shit going on in religion this week. We'll be back. You're listening to SarahTalk.
Hello, my friends. This is Sister Mary Atheist of the Church of Religious Avoidance down here in Bumblefuck, Alabama. Now, my friends, my people, my brothers and sisters, do you feel lost? Do you feel that swelling urge to be a part of something better? Well, let the word of SarahTalk help you. If you've never known the word SarahTalk, learn it, live it, love it. Can I get an amen? No? Good, 'cause we don't do that shit around here. My friends, we must all remember that the good word of SarahTalk doesn't happen for free. So get yourself over to patreon.com/SarahTalk and help us spread the word. Plant that seed and help it grow into secular, peer-reviewed empirical evidence for the good of all. In the name of the Sarah, the Becca, and the science-based podcast, amen. Hallelujah and holy shit.
Hey you, this is John from the Wayward Willis, and you are listening to the SarahTalk podcast. You know who else is listening? God. He's listening, and he's pissed. He has to send Jesus out of the room because of all the fucking profanity. Clean up your act, SarahTalk. You make baby Jesus cry.
Welcome back to SarahTalk. I'm Sarah Austin. We're going to get to the news segment here in just a minute, but I'm riding solo again this week. My lovely wife, Becca, is... I hope she's in bed. She's been trying to get the kids to bed for the last hour or so, or two. Didn't realize how long I've been in here working on this. So what happened is, our 3-year-old decided she was done sleeping in the crib, finally. And not for lack of trying, like we've tried before, but she just not interested in the big girl bed. So now her grandmother bought her like a kid's, indoor teepee thing. And they set that up in her room. And they put the mattress from her crib inside this thing. And for the last week or two, I guess, I know my time is all fuzzy right now. The last week or two, I guess, she has been excellent at going to bed. It's time to go to bed, and she goes right in there and hugs and kisses and cover me up and tuck me in and lay me down, and I go to sleep. Until tonight. Tonight, she must have come out of the room 500,000 times. So I hope she's sleeping now, and I hope that Becca got to sleep. All right. So that said, let's kick off the religion segment this week with an update from the front lines in The War on Christmas.
In a world on the brink of chaos,
why were the shepherds in their fields in winter?
as faith wavers,
I'm just not sure we should do the whole church thing this year.
one man will make a journey unlike anything you've seen before.
Where's your tree?
Dude, I'm Jewish.
This holiday season, a savior will rise up,
Oh, honey, Santa can't afford the new Xbox.
and a religion will fall.
We're saying Merry Christmas again.
Nothing says Christmas in America like evangelicals getting their I Heart Jesus underwear in a twist over anything that seems non-Christian when it comes to the biggest holiday of the year, which, of course you know, has its roots in paganism, not Christianity. What underpaid, overworked department store cashier is causing all the outrage this time for saying Happy Holidays instead of Merry Christmas? The United States Air Force. Okay? According to Newsweek, a commander at a large Air Force base in a Muslim-majority nation ordered a Muslim recruit and non-citizen who had joined the military on the promise of citizenship to don a Santa Claus costume at what he was calling the base Christmas party. That recruit reached out to the Military Religious Freedom Foundation saying that he was afraid to object and that his parents were upset as well. His letter said in part, and I'm going to clean up the grammar a bit here, of course English isn't his first language, but he says, I was shocked and hurt. I was embarrassed, humiliated. Now, everyone knows I am Muslim. Everyone knows we are deployed to country name withheld, which is a Muslim country. I did not want to be forced to play Santa Claus. Now, apparently the commander comes up with this crazy Santa suit idea specifically to show that his Christmas party was not just for Christians. But come on! You clearly figured out that you need to make the party not just Christian-focused. But how the fuck do you get deployed to a Muslim-majority nation and not know how stupid it would be to dress up some young Muslim kid in a Santa suit? Christians. This is a great example of why the government needs to be neutral and secular. And it wasn't long after the MRFF brought the issue to the base leadership, like baby Jesus magic, the Christmas party suddenly became a holiday party. Now, all of that happened on the heels of an incident over Thanksgiving that we didn't talk about yet. It was in an Air Force base in Qatar, where the U.S. Central Command and 379th Expeditionary Wing of the Air Force were treated to a Bible-shaped cake piped with icing verses from Psalms, which an Air Force public affairs officer then proceeded to post online. Now, again, some service members complained to the MRFF, and the photos online disappeared. But the part about this story that I like the most is that the baker apparently can't grammar or spell. Here's what the cake said, verbatim. It was made to look like an open Bible, right? And on the pages were Psalm 30:14 and Psalm 104 through 5. Offer unto God thanksgiving, and pay thy vows unto the Most High. And let us come before it is presence with thanksgiving. Enter his gates with thanksgiving, and his courts with praise. For the Lord is good, and his love endures forever, and his faithfulness continues, Contentueus, what the fuck word is that? Though all generation. That's barely close. So a baker who can literally copy, like letter for letter, word for word, from the actual source text can't even get it right. How do you possibly believe that scribes a few thousand years ago translating from one language to another and making copies didn't fuck something up? Inerrant word of God, my ass. A lot of Muslim coalition partners were in attendance at this whitewashed, Christianized Thanksgiving cake event too, but hey, Christians are the ones being persecuted, am I right? The next story. David Creswell, superintendent of Ventura Unified School District in Southern California, resigned last week after a video of a 2016 sermon surfaced. A sermon that Creswell gave while serving as a church elder at Redeemer Baptist Church in Riverside, California. Here's how the VC Star puts it, talking about a school board meeting last month, quote, "The board also discussed at length a sermon given by Superintendent David Creswell in 2016, in which he discussed gay and transgender people in a way that some took as disparaging," end quote. This clip was originally available on the Redeemer Baptist Church's SoundCloud, but they took it down. Luckily, the student newspaper, the Dragon Press, had already backed up a copy. So you tell me whether disparaging is up for debate.
Book that was laying on the shelf and began paging through it, and I flipped open to the section that was the senior section, right? You get nominations and elections and voting, and then you get these pictures with these captions, most likely to succeed.
Those are called superlatives, sir. Pretty simple thing.
Best hair, whatever the categories are. There's the pictures, and I was kind of leafing through it, and I came across best couple, and there was a picture of two cute girls embracing each other. I thought, oh boy, now here we go.
And then he took that picture and that book to the bathroom for just a minute. Probably less than a minute.
It's our world. Lift over to the next page, where I was really kind of arrested in my heart. The caption was most changed. There was a picture of a young man fully dressed as a girl with the long hair and the necklace and the jewelry and the makeup, the eyelashes, the dress, and the shoes.
Okay, so not a boy, a girl, check.
And he was holding a picture of himself from before that was a very normal-looking young man.
Yeah, that's a change. What's wrong with you?
I thought, this is the definition of most change?
Yes!
This is the definition?
Sure.
There's a growing sector of our culture, of our society, that says that's good and that's normal.
There's nothing wrong with it.
And not only do they embrace it, we're now celebrating it.
Yes.
And I just thought, oh, that's not my definition.
Well, great. Look, fucker, just because you don't understand a thing doesn't mean it's not good or right or correct.
If it was up to me, it would say most changed at the top, and there would be a picture of a nondescript senior boy or girl. And the caption underneath would say something like, this student started the year as a rebel with an eternity guaranteed in hell. But right around first semester, Christ arrested this person's very soul and changed their character and their nature so that they now have a life that's more abundant and, in fact, an eternity that's guaranteed in the presence of God. This senior now has an intimate and personal relationship with the creator of the universe. That's my definition of change. Don't let the culture of this world tell you who Jesus is.
The culture of the world before Jesus said it was okay to own each other. Don't get hung up on this culture of the world shit.
Don't let consensus or the crowd define that for you. And don't make up your own answers. Learn to think. Learn to read the Bible.
Those are not compatible. You can't learn to think and learn to read the Bible. Those two don't work together. It's read the Bible, stop thinking, do as you're told.
To consider, pray.
Of course, pray. Of course, pray. Now, in an apology letter, he claimed that he's not a hater, a homophobe, or a person with a hidden agenda. Now, the only correct word in that sentence is hidden. His agenda is on full display. Not only does he want to demean the lived experiences of trans and queer people, but he also wants to plaster Jesus nonsense throughout the pages of a public school's yearbook. And to the VC star who originally said here, in which he discussed gay and transgender people in a way that some took as disparaging, that sermon is disparaging. There's no other way to interpret that. So he issued this apology letter for what it's worth, which I don't accept. Not that that matters. And now he's decided to resign. School board trustee Mary Hafner called for Creswell's resignation in a statement to the VC Star after he issued his apology. But she was the lone trustee calling for his resignation. Other trustees lamented losing a good person, and a person who has evolved into something far more enlightened than he was 2 or 3 years ago when he gave that sermon. But provides no evidence for any of those claims. And besides, he's Baptist. They don't believe in evolution, so he couldn't have evolved. Hey, but here we are again, the old straight white Christian man, and let me make one thing clear. This is absolutely an LGBT issue, specifically because I think if he had given a sermon that said, I can't believe that they put that interracial couple under best couple, this is the definition of best couple? What's a nice white girl like that doing with a colored boy like him anyway? There's a growing sector of our culture, our society, that says that's good and that's normal. The board would have absolutely called for his resignation, unanimously. So you want us to believe that you're not a hater or a homophobe? Where's a sermon about embracing people who are different? Where's the sermon calling on the body of Christ to truly love their neighbors unconditionally? If that sermon came up, and it was given prior to this incident, and we might start to believe you. At this point, though, you have no business working with children. Speaking of people who have no business working with children, a Virginia high school teacher was fired recently for refusing to use a transgender student's new pronouns, citing, guess what? Religious reasons. Peter Vlaming, 47, taught French at a West Point high school for almost 7 years and was fired after a school board hearing where the board voted unanimously 5-0 in favor of his termination. He told school officials that his Christian faith prevented him from using male pronouns to refer to a female-to-male transgender student in his class, though he told local station WWBT, I'm happy, totally happy to use the new name. I'm happy to avoid female pronouns, not to offend, because I'm not here to provoke, but I can't refer to a female as a male and a male as a female in good conscience and faith. This, of course, violated the school's non-discrimination policy, according to Superintendent Laura Abel, quote, because all the other students were being used pronouns, but this student was not being used pronouns. That discrimination then leads to a hostile learning environment, and the student had expressed that. The parent had expressed that. They felt disrespected, end quote. Vlaming said he loves and respects all his students, but when a solution he tried to reach based on mutual tolerance was rejected, he was at risk of losing his job for having views held by, quote, most of the world for most of human history, end quote. Hey, you know what other views were held by a lot of people for a lot of human history? They thought it was okay to own other people. Just because it's always been so doesn't mean it was right. Naturally, Vlaming has an attorney who is arguing that this termination violated his First Amendment rights, saying, quote, the school board adopted one viewpoint and then required Mr. Vlaming, at the cost of his job, to repeat that ideology, to repeat that viewpoint. That's where that's compelled speech. That's where it violates his First Amendment rights that he does still retain as a public employee, end quote. During the school board meeting, Principal Jonathan Hockman testified that he had directed Vlaming to use male pronouns in accordance with the student's wishes, adding, I can't think of a worse way to treat a child than what was happening. Superintendent released a statement saying, quote, the school board has policies that prohibit discrimination on the basis of gender identity. As detailed during the course of the public hearing, Mr. Vlaming was recommended for termination due to his insubordination and repeated refusal to comply with directives made to him by multiple WPPS administrators. As superintendent, it is my responsibility to enforce school board policy, and due to Mr. Vlaming's noncompliance, I therefore recommended termination. Y'all, this is why we are fighting so damn hard to get every non-discrimination policy, every civil rights law updated to include gender identity and sexual orientation. There are far too many places out there that don't protect us. And because of that, trans people report some of the highest levels of discrimination in schools, in the workplace, and in housing. And of course, as you know, we have one of the highest rates of suicide attempts of any subgroup. Here's yet another guy with no business working with children. 48-year-old Kevin Scott Hefner, a former pastor of 15 years and a private school principal in North Carolina, will spend a maximum of 25 years in prison without parole after pleading guilty last week to performing inappropriate sex acts and sending a dozen nude pictures to one of his minor female students who was also a member of his congregation. Rockingham County Superior Court Judge William Wood found him guilty of 2 felony counts of statutory sex offense with a child under 15 and 12 felony counts disseminating obscene material to a minor. The victim was 14 and 15 years old during the time Hefner committed these crimes. Now, the girl's mother, also a church member, contacted the sheriff's office after learning from the victim's sibling that the girl had received numerous sexual texts and pictures from Hefner after the sibling had borrowed her phone and discovered these texts, which included detailed incidences of an actual physical relationship between the two of them. Some of the texts were about oral sex and masturbation, and some of the photos show his full body, many of which reveal his identifying tattoo of a Star of David. That's interesting. And, of course, a close-up of his penis, because you just can't resist sending dick pics. Rockingham County Assistant DA Michelle Alson described how he digitally penetrated the victim while on a crowded church van en route to a retreat, and how he repeated that act at a movie theater while his own daughter sat nearby. He also engaged in oral sex acts with the victim in his church's office, church hallway, and kitchen, as well as in the victim's home and in his own master bathroom. He made a practice of taking the victim on errands in his vehicles, digitally penetrating her while in a Suburban in a retailer's parking lot, and while in his Honda in the victim's driveway. She also said he digitally penetrated her in a lake during a church retreat, and she felt his penis in the water. Buckingham now reports that investigators sprayed the church office with luminol, a substance used to identify bodily fluids like semen and blood, and found such fluids on the office couch, carpet, and traces on a pillow and blanket. In his role as her private... That's just as the pastor. In his role as her private school principal, he would pay the student extra attention, took the student to lunch alone, and had convinced her that he was going to leave his wife for her. Hefner's mother, wife, and daughter all spoke in support of him in court, saying what a good man and father he was. A good Christian. He may face further charges in Virginia because the church retreat sits on the border between North Carolina and Virginia. So further charges may be coming. God, here's another one. The pastor of New Providence Baptist Church in North Carolina, Jerry Lewis Friday, was arrested for sexual assault of 3 minor children, which took place between 2015 and 2018. Like the last guy, police say Friday assaulted the children at both private residences and church property, using his position as pastor to gain their trust. A few weeks ago, one of the victims went to the police to report their assault, which during investigation swelled to 3 victims, ages ranging from 13 to 17 years old at the time of the assaults. Friday was charged with 1 count of felony statutory sex offense, which is a Class B1, 4 counts of felony indecent liberties with a child, 1 count of felony disseminating obscene material to a minor, and 2 counts of misdemeanor sexual battery. The judge set bail at $1 million. Police are not ruling out the possibility, of course, that there may be other victims, and they're asking anyone has any more information or anyone that's been victimized to contact them. It's been a crazy week or two, guys. Like, this is a lot of shit all dropping at once. And if it seems like we talk about this often, it's because it's systemic. We've talked at length about the Australian Royal Commission into the Jehovah's Witnesses and Catholic cover-up scandals throughout the world, and I keep asking the question, why are any of you still going to church? And I think you're likely to hear, well, Sarah, that doesn't happen in my church. But the point of exposing all of these people and covering all of their stories like this, after making the victims whole, of course, and holding the accused accountable, we need to demonstrate that it's actually a lot more likely to be happening than you think. The churches are hiding criminal sexual abusers, and you would never know. The Star-Telegram conducted an 8-month investigation, and I'll link this article in the show notes. There's a lot of good info, detailing hundreds of sex abuse allegations in the fundamental Baptist churches across the U.S. Quote, more than 200 people, current or former church members across generations, shared their stories of rape, assault, humiliation, and fear in churches where male leadership cannot be questioned. End quote. And in this article, They share a few of these stories, and they'll break your fucking heart. There's videos you can watch, too, of these people talking about what happened to them. 168 church leaders were accused or convicted of committing sexual crimes against children, and at least 45 of the alleged abusers continued in ministry after accusations came to the attention of the church authorities or law enforcement. The churches are hiding these predators. It doesn't happen in my church, Sarah. That's not my pastor. Are you sure? And we know in all of these stories, you have to take these numbers with a bit of skepticism, the proverbial grain of salt, because the real numbers are much, much higher because many people never come forward. And what I found most interesting about this story from the Star Telegram is the way former members explain how this happens again and again. They explained it. One former member who was abused, speaking anonymously, said, "We didn't have a compound like those other places, but it may as well have been. Our mind was the compound." So it's a culture where authoritarian leaders reign through fear, which I think helps explain why so many Christian fundamentalists in America fell for Trump. The pastor is a man of God who commands unquestioning trust in much the same way they teach to trust and fear God himself, to the point where ex-members told the Star Telegram they even feared that if they disobeyed the pastor or left the church, God would kill them or their loved ones. And like we've seen with the JWs and the Catholics, members of various fundamental Baptist churches have groomed followers to come to pastors first with their problems. And so often many victims of serious crimes go first to their pastor, whose authority they have been groomed to trust, and that's how pastors get moved around to different churches, atrocious sex crimes against children cover it up, and never taken to the police. Okay, shake that off. Give you a minute to... I'm just saying, I don't understand how you can step foot in a church on a Sunday knowing that this problem is as prevalent as it is and as underground. Yes, we're starting to see these stories come up, and hopefully this will be enough to stop those people from doing these terrible things to children. But I'm telling you right now, even if I believed in God, there's no way in hell I could step foot in a church with my kids. Couldn't do it. All right, let's do some good news. Some good news this week. Florida State Senator Jose Javier Rodriguez introduced Senate Bill 84, which would effectively ban licensed mental health practitioners from employing conversion therapy in the state. Conversion therapy, of course, falsely claims to be able to change people's sexual orientation or gender identity. Now, keep in mind, this is just an initial filing and has a long way to go. And of course, it only covers state licensed providers, so it doesn't really seem to address faith leaders who may practice this awful practice and not be licensed by the state for any sort of mental health practice. Rodriguez said, "In most states, it is illegal to force children into conversion therapy, and that is wrong. When it comes to this debunked practice, there is no conversion and there is no therapy. So-called conversion therapy does not work because youth are who they are. They should be supported rather than shamed. More importantly, the practice we seek to ban is not therapy. The long-term, even lethal damage it does to youth is well documented. If you're going to be a licensed practitioner in Florida, refraining from harming our youth with this debunked practice should be a basic requirement." One study conducted by Gravis Marketing, a nonpartisan research firm, found that 71% of registered Florida voters agree that conversion therapy for minors should be illegal. 71%! 20 local governments in Florida, both cities and counties, have adopted conversion therapy bans, which is more than any other state in the country, which surprises the fuck out of me living in Florida. So, look, there's some good news, right? And this, again, we're at the first refrain of I'm Just a Bill. up on Capitol Hill, and it's going to take a long time to get through the process, but hopefully they pass this thing in 2019 for the state of Florida. Also, in the good news this week, Michael Cohen is headed to jail for 3 years. Christmas time is here. And there really are miracles. Look at that. I really don't have a lot else to say about that other than, all of this, while this was kind of adjacent to the Mueller investigation and not specific to it, all of the hot white spotlights on the Trump administration and Trump himself, these investigations just seem to keep getting closer and closer to individual one himself. And if you missed that meeting in the Oval Office where Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer go at it with Trump over his stupid fucking wall, that was a great one. At one point, Pelosi was like, listen, I agree. I don't disagree with you. Border security is important, but we should be looking at proven science-based approaches, not a wall that won't work. And I was like, hell yeah, get him, Nancy. All right, I'm going to close out the show this week. It's going to be so weird without Becca, and it's going to be so weird without you guys in the chat. But we're going to do The Florida Man, brought to you by our top patrons, part-time patron Russell, Mandy Imus, pledging prodigiously on Patreon as a playful podcast prank. John, go to your room. Lamont and Dan, thank you all so much for supporting the show. To the Gatormobile, let's go.
Atomic batteries to power. Turbines to speed.
Roger. Ready to move out.
Three stories in the Florida Man tonight. And again, this is going to be so weird without Becca to play off of and nobody in the chat. It's just sad little me alone in the studio at like fucking 10:30 at night. All right, here we go. Washington State coming in with a competitor this week. Sometimes the police need to reach out to the public to get leads or other help tracking down suspects, like wanted posters or calls for help on TV. Well, the Richland, Washington Police Department posted on their Facebook Wednesday, November 28th, Wanted Wednesday. Anthony Akers, 38, is wanted by the Department of Corrections for failure to comply. If you have any information, please call 509 yada yada yada. Right. Now, they didn't have to wait long for a hot tip. 5 hours later, Akers himself replied to the Facebook post saying, quote, calm down. I'm going to turn myself in. Police replied the next day, hey, Anthony, we haven't seen you yet. Our business hours are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Of course, if you need a ride, you can call non-emergency 509 yada yada yada, and we will pick you up. To which Anthony replied, Richland WA Police Department, thank you. Tying up a couple of loose ends since I will probably be in there for a month. Should be in there in the next 48 hours. 48 hours goes by, and other users started asking if Akers had turned himself in, which police said he had not. At this point, the post has gone viral. Then, on Monday, the RPD Facebook account again posted, Morose Monday. Dear Anthony, is it us? Last Wednesday, we reached out to you as wanted. You replied and even said you were going to turn yourself in. We waited. You didn't show. After you stood us up, we reached out again, this time offering you a ride. You replied and said you needed 48 hours. The weekend came and went. We are beginning to think you are not coming. Please call us any time and we will come to you. 509, etc., etc. Memes were created. People started sharing and commenting with the hashtags like Free Anthony and hashtag Keep Anthony Free. Then Anthony comments again. Dear RPD, it's not you. It's me. I obviously have commitment issues. I apologize for standing you up, but let me make it up to you. I will be there no later than lunchtime tomorrow. I know you have no reason to believe me after what I did to you, but I promise that if I don't make it on my own by lunchtime tomorrow, I will call for a ride to assist me with my commitment issues. Thank you in advance to your response. If you are patiently giving me another chance with us, I know I don't deserve it. P.S. You're beautiful with a kissy face emoji. This guy's got some balls. Then on Tuesday, that was on Monday. On Tuesday, December 4th, 3:29 p.m., Mr. Akers turned himself into Richland police right after posting a selfie, standing outside an elevator with the caption, "Here for our date, sweetheart." Oh, man, this guy. God. The next story. Shanetta Yvette Wilson, 37-year-old Florida woman, was charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon without intent to kill after an incident last week at a Dollar General store in Dania Beach. According to the Broward County Sheriff's Office complaint affidavit, Wilson was in the checkout line when she and John Walker, a customer standing next to her, got into a verbal dispute, quote, in reference to the defendant farting loudly, end quote. According to the police report, Wilson allegedly pulled a small lockback knife from her purse, opened the knife, and told the victim she was gonna gut him. While doing so, she pulled back her right hand with the knife as if she was going to attack the victim. Walker was in fear that he was going to be stabbed by the defendant, the affidavit read. All over a fart, or an alleged fart, allegedly. She was arrested and bail set at $2,500. And the final Florida man in the running this week, right here from Polk County. Polk County deputies are searching for a suspect who stole a foot-long sandwich and hid it in his pants. At around 8:45 p.m. Sunday, November 25th, the unidentified man walked into a Marathon gas station in Lakeland, where, according to deputies, he paid for a drink but left the gas station without paying for the sandwich in his pants. He left on bicycle. My favorite part of this story is the Polk County Sheriff's Office Facebook post. Right, so they share a surveillance camera photo of this Florida man wearing tan-colored pants, a blue long-sleeve shirt, and a baseball cap backwards. And the post says, "A sandwich thief walks among us, and Detective LeBlanc is asking our Facebook fans to help identify him. Some of you may think we're overdoing it by trying to identify the suspect of a relatively minor theft. One of you is probably even saying, 'This is small potatoes.' And to that, we would reply, no. This was a foot-long sandwich, not potatoes. Pay attention!" Man, our sheriff's department here in Polk County is crazy. You got Wild Wild West Grady Judd, sheriff, leading the thing, and I assume they have like social media people that are writing this crazy shit. Pay attention, son. Saying potatoes. This is a foot-long sandwich. I'm gonna hear them now. All right, your choices tonight. The case of the criminal commitment issues. Whoever smelt it gets fucking shanked, motherfucker. You hear me? I'll fucking gut you. Or, I've got a foot long in my pants. Maybe I'll put this in the group this week, since I don't have immediate feedback. Feels sad. Let me know what you guys think. Which Florida man should be the crowned the winner, the Florida maniest of them all. And hopefully we'll be back live again next week. I'm really, really wanting to get back on schedule. Christmas is coming. The studio's trashed. I'm starting to feel a little bit better, though, so hopefully that means some good things for us coming up. So we want to thank, again, Rick Marazzani, the creator of the Atheist Christmas Coloring Book, for coming on the show with us. Visit atheistchristmas.org to pick one up now. And make sure you use the Amazon gift code GIFTBOOK18, GIFTBOOK18 on Amazon for $5 off, $20 or more. Thank you to all of our wonderful patrons. If you'd like to join our great patrons and get early access to all the episodes as they come out, patron-only content, the video vault, and more, head to patreon.com/SarahTalk. If you can't do that, you want to give us some love, but money's just not there for you right now, that's fine too. We love you still, and we'd love to have a glowing 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or wherever you listen to the show. Thank you all again for listening. I'm so lonely. and I'll see you next week. You've been listening to SarahTalk.
SarahTalk is made possible by listener support. Visit patreon.com/SarahTalk to become a patron and help keep this program going. Contact Sarah and Company by email at producer@sarahtalk.com or call 224-40-SARAH. That's 224-407-2724. And follow us on social media, facebook.com/SarahTalkRadio and on Twitter @SarahTalkRadio. The opinions and information provided on this show are intended for entertainment purposes only. All opinions are solely that of the hosts and their guests. We make no representations as to accuracy, completeness, timeliness, or validity of any information and will not be liable for any errors or damages. SarahTalk is a production of Sarah Austin Media.